Hello everyone, welcome back to the Undercut and welcome to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix post-race podcast and driver ratings. This is going to be a fun one, I very, very much assume. I mean, first of all...
It's always going to be fun. It's always fun.
It's always fun. This one in particular, though, I mean, we've got a lot of things to talk about today. There's a lot of things we need to talk about. First of all, I'm just going to put this out there. I think that's the best race of the season. I do. I genuinely do. I think it's the best race of the season. For overall racing, closeness, it's the best race of the season.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I think Belgium and Britain might contend that one. But as Azerbaijan goes, we've had a few stinkers the past few years, so it was very good.
It was very good. I love the fact we got a three-way battle for the lead.
Yeah.
And that was fun. We had Carlos coming into it at the end. Like, it was a very good race.
Yeah, I think what would have made the race better is if that crash happened 5-6 laps earlier.
Possibly, yeah. That might have
red flag, standing start.
Yeah. No, you never know, do you?
Fun.
But anyway, let's jump straight into the driver ratings. So the way this works is we rank every driver from 1 to 5, 1 being the absolute worst, 0 if they've had an absolute stinker. And we go from 20th in the race up until 1st. We rank them, give our thoughts on why. And then at the end of the season, we're going to collectively add all of our results up of every post-race podcast and give our overall score for the driver. But anyway, for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, let's just jump straight into this. 20th was Yuki Tsunoda, so retired fairly early. He came into contact with Stroll early in the race and ended up retiring with a hole in his side pod.
He did. I mean, I haven't seen many replays of that. Was it Yuki closing the door? Was Stroll going for a gap that wasn't there? It's 50-50. It's lap 1, isn't it?
It's 50-50. It's lap 1. I think it was more Stroll's fault than anything. He went for a gap that just wasn't... Like, it was there, but at the same time,
but it wasn't there.
Yuki was always closing the door there. There's no... You can't...
Yeah.
And the track's narrow as it is. I've gone with a 3 for Yuki Tsunoda. So 3 straight down the middle. He had a decent qualifying, but that really ruined his race. So I can't really give him anything other than a 3.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's difficult because obviously he retired so early.
Yeah.
So you're only really going off quali.
Yeah.
Which his quali was decent, but I think we'll give him the decency of a 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he caused that incident, I mean, it's a 2 and maybe lower, but I think...
I don't think he caused it. I think he could have avoided it, but I don't think he caused it.
And speaking of causing the incident, Stroll finished 19th. Now, I've given Lance Stroll a 1.
A 1?
I've given him a 1. I'm just going to be honest. He's been nowhere all weekend compared to Fernando.
Yeah.
And any sort of... You know, he had to just keep it clean on lap 1, and he's sent it down the inside there. So,
look, I agree with the 1. I don't agree with giving him full blame for the incident.
I didn't say it was full blame. I just think it was partially more his fault.
It edged more his way, but the 1 isn't just like, it isn't for the incident. The 1 is for his whole weekend for me. The incident, yeah, you could probably edge it more towards him, but it's lap 1. Yeah, maybe you should think about it's Baku, it's difficult, but that's the best place to make your overtakes on lap 1 round Baku, because Baku's a difficult circuit to overtake on. It is. Like, you might think it's not with that long straight, but it is.
It is. It is a difficult
It really is. So you do have to make ground on lap 1, and that's all that I think he was trying to do, obviously, after a poorer qualifying than his teammate. And he just misjudged it. And I don't think you can blame him for going for that. It wasn't like a crash where he definitely shouldn't have gone for it. It was an incident where it was feasible. It's just maybe another driver there instead of Yuki does leave a little more room.
Well, no, it wasn't malicious, obviously, but, you know, you take into the account that Stroll had been behind his teammate all weekend.
Yeah.
You know, he's going for a very audacious move, and some people will say he has to make that move to try and make ground, but at the end of the day, he's ruined his race even more. He's ruined Yuki's race.
He has. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying he's not to blame. I would put more blame towards him, but I wouldn't be so harsh in saying it's all his blame or he shouldn't have even gone for the move, because I think maybe he was right to go for the move.
Yeah, no, that's true. 18th was Carlos Sainz.
Yeah. Well,
let's talk
where
about
do we
this crash.
start with this one?
I don't know. Well, we've got Carlos and then Perez straight afterwards, so we've got the two, arguably the biggest moment of the race.
Yeah. You see, if Carlos finished, he was on for a 4.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, I don't think either of them caused that crash.
I'd argue it the opposite way. I think both of them caused that crash.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. They've either both caused it or neither of them caused it. It's just one of them unfortunate incidents where their trajectory, neither of them changed, but it brought them together.
Yeah, and this is why I don't like grouping drivers together to give them scores, but I'm actually going to do it here because
you told me before this we are not to group drivers.
No, because it gets it. But I think this is one of those situations where because they've both finished together on the road and they've both taken each other out, I think we might as well talk about them. And I'm giving them the same score anyway. I'm giving both of them a 1. And that seems harsh. It seems really, really harsh. But for the reason I'm giving them both 1 is because both of them could have avoided it. Sainz had room on the outside.
Easily avoidable.
Perez had mountains of room, and that's, you know, just that when you isolate the incident, you can say, okay, they could have both avoided it, but they had a good weekend, all else. Yeah, but you've also got to remember, Carlos Sainz isn't typically very good around this track. Him finishing 3rd or 4th was damage limitation in comparison to his teammate. He was running a very good weekend in comparison to where he usually is. In the case of Sergio Perez, he was beating Max Verstappen and having the race of the season. He was having a race, and he needed this result. Sergio Perez needed this, not just for
on one this weekend.
He was, and both of them could have avoided it, and both of them could have got some decent points, whether they either finished 3rd or 4th, and they've both caused that incident by being too stubborn. Yeah, so it's both a 1. I don't care how well the weekend was going, and if anything, the weekend going well for both of them is more of a reason to give them a 1. They were both having a really good race, and they've completely ruined it for themselves, so it's a 1.
Capitulated.
Yeah, simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a 1. They've ruined it all. But if it wasn't for the crash, Sainz was definitely on for a 4. Perez was on for one of the best 5s of his life.
Perez was on for a definite 5, 100%.
Perez was my driver of the day at that point.
Yeah, I mean, he was running fantastic.
Man,
a fantastic
obliterated Max Verstappen this weekend.
He did, yeah.
And then that happened.
Yeah, so...
yeah, no, I agree. It sounds harsh, but they've ruined it. And because of it, McLaren are clear in the Constructors.
Yeah, I remember hearing the commentary said, I don't know if it was Karun, someone said, if it finishes as it is now with Perez in 3rd, McLaren would be winning by 1 point. So Perez had done a good job up until that point to minimise the gap McLaren would have had. And look at it now, they're clear.
20 points, I think?
Yeah. Yeah. Not only did he crash and leave more points out on the table, but those points were snatched up by Lando Norris for McLaren. So
yeah, it was ahead of Max in the end.
Yeah. 16th was Valtteri Bottas.
Valtteri Bottas.
Yep.
Now, we knew Stake were having a long one this weekend.
Stake have a long one every weekend.
They do. But this weekend specifically, like this track completely highlights their issues of street circuit, slow speed corners, high speed. They can't do any of it.
Yeah.
They may as well not be a car.
Well, you've just described a characteristic of pretty much every circuit you can go to on the calendar.
Yeah, they're not awful in medium speed corners though.
No.
They're not awful in that. That's the only thing that they appear to be able to do.
Which, by the way, is, I believe, why they ran pretty well around Bahrain. Because Zhou did all right.
Bahrain and China. That's why I think they did okay at them two.
A lot of medium speed corners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah. What are you giving Bottas?
You see, I might have to give him a 2 because he's lost to show.
I've given Bottas a 2 for that reason. I've given Bottas a 2 because he's lost to Zhou.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually I just give him a 3 and say Bottas could be running the race of his life, but
it's just pretty simple as that. He's lost out to show.
Yeah.
It's a 2.
It's a 2. 15th was Esteban Ocon.
Fam, where is Zhou?
Man, Zhou did a madness, Brev. 15th was Ocon.
Ocon. He's just had a stinker the whole weekend.
Yeah, he's not had a great weekend. It really...
Compared to Gasly as well.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't help in practice with all the issues Alpine were having, but Ocon just never got going, did he?
No, it's like he never even started. I mean, he's starting from the pit lane as well.
Yeah.
I mean, do you go really harsh and give him a 1? You might have to, you know.
No, I give him a 2. Alpine were nowhere, really, in comparison to...
Yeah, but
Williams,
were Alpine nowhere? Because if you look at Gasly, he was hovering around the points the whole race.
Yeah, but he didn't score any.
Where was... Ocon was last the whole race.
Yeah, but Gasly at least had the chance to sort of be in that pack by starting further up.
That was Ocon's problem. He started further down.
Well, yeah, that's why he gets...
Naturally in qualifying as well. He had a poor quali. He started 19th in quali without the pit lane start.
Yeah, it's a 2. I don't think it's quite a 1. Alpine, I don't think we're anywhere. It's
No,
why I don't know. It's why I don't give Bottas a 1. You know, like Zhou's beat him quite comprehensively, actually. But I'm not giving him a 1 because it's
Bottas and Zhou were close together up until the crash.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
They weren't far apart. Whereas Ocon just didn't make any... He was behind the stakes for like the first round of pit stops. He didn't even overtake them.
I don't think it's quite a 1.
It's a 1 from me for Ocon.
I'm going to be a little bit easier on him. Give him a 2. The Alpine was no.
No. He's got to be overtaking the stakes at the start.
But speaking of stake, though, 14th was Guan Yu Zhou. In the end,
it's a 3.
Yeah, it's a 3.
It
I mean,
is
he's
a
done.
3.
He's done what he needs to
4.
do. He's done what he needs to do.
He's actually achieved his assignments this weekend.
Yeah. I think before this, I'm going to have a look at my scores actually right now. I think before this, Zhou hadn't scored anything other than a 1 for like 3 or 4 races. I'm fairly certain. Let me have a look. Zhou.
There might have been a 2 in there.
No, 3. It's been 3 races since he scored anything other than a 1. So Zhou's, you know, he's been on an absolute stinker, but it's a 3 this weekend.
He's got a 3.
Yeah. 13th was Daniel Ricciardo. Now, RB, obviously we couldn't compare to Yuki in the race. Daniel had
they didn't appear to be anywhere.
No, RB were nowhere, but he had a poor qualifying in comparison to Yuki, but he had a very decent first stint. But then it just seemed like the tyres on that RB fell away quicker than every other car. And that really hurt Ricciardo. Like, he was running really well with the Haas and with the Williams at one point, and with Fernando. He was sort of in that pack. But then just fell away towards the end of the stint. And that happened twice. So, you know, that RB clearly not very good on its tyres. The graining seemed just unbelievably bad for them. I've given Ricciardo a 3. I think his good performance in the race to be able to sort of be within that pack for the majority of the first stint saved his score a little bit because he had a decent race. He sort of saved the qualifying. But even if he had a good qualifying, I don't think he was scoring points. The RB just didn't look good at all.
No, I think a 3 is fair.
Yeah. Fair for Ricciardo. You 3 as well?
I am 3.
12th was Pierre Gasly. In the end.
3.
Yeah.
3, I mean, did what that Alpine could do.
I've given him a high 3. I've almost given him a 4 because Gasly even said in the post-interview he was running the absolute race of his life. He was on the limit every single corner, extracting everything out of that Alpine because it was just nowhere. And to finish 12th when your teammate is 15th is very impressive. But like I said, I think Ocon represents the true pace of the Alpine this weekend. I just think Gasly was extracting everything to the limit. But yeah, it is a 3. I can't give him a 4.
Yeah, no.
11th is Nico Hülkenberg.
Did Haas, I'm fairly certain, did they stop at the end?
What do you mean?
Because Hülkenberg was running ahead of Albon, or just behind Albon. And then that incident happened, and he's ended up down in 11th.
To be honest with you, a lot of chaos happened on that last few laps.
I'm not entirely sure what happened. The only thing I could think, did Haas stop Hülkenberg in a pit?
I don't think they did.
Then how's he dropped that many positions to Colapinto, Hamilton, and Behrman?
I think what happened is, if I remember rightly, it was the virtual safety car, like the green flag in the virtual safety car came out at a weird time for him, and I think he got passed.
By all of them?
I think he got passed by a fair few of them. I could be wrong, because there was so much going on that last lap that we were trying to analyse and trying to figure out what was going on, especially the crash. But Hülkenberg, I think, lost a few places on the last lap because of the way the virtual safety car came out.
Because the thing could be the way that it came out, yeah. And it depends, because if he's lost that due to not seeing green flags or whatever and lost all them positions, it's a shocker. But if he's lost out because Haas have pitted him,
I don't think he pitted. I think he's lost. I think he's lost on track. I don't think they pit.
Well, then that's a shocker.
It is. I've given Hülkenberg a 3.
Nah.
No, because I
think he would have scored 8th.
I think it's unfortunate for Hülkenberg.
He would have scored 8th.
I think it's unfortunate because the way it happened, the way I seem to remember it happening, is he lost a bunch of positions. Like, it was really weird. It was like I think he slowed down for the VSC, but the green light was still on at the point in the track that they were at. So then he slowed down, but I think everyone came past. And I don't think that's necessarily his fault.
Right.
I think it's just unfortunate the way it happened. I don't know why that happened, and I don't even know if that's exactly how it happened.
Right.
It was so much was going on.
What I'm going to do is, anyone watching who knows what is going on, tell us what happened to Hülkenberg, because that will affect my score.
Yeah, I'm giving him a 3 anyway.
If it's a pit stop, it's a 3. If he's lost that by his own accord, by mistake, and dropped out of the points after being a potential 8th, and he's out of the points, it's a 2.
Right, anyway, let's move on. Oliver Behrman finished in 10th.
He did. Yep. Ran a good race, I thought. Obviously, FP3 didn't go the way he wanted. Did a good quali, recovery after that. Ran a very good race. Had a nice, tasty battle with Hamilton.
Kept him behind for a very long time as well.
He did. A 4. A 4. I think. Am I being too harsh?
No, I think you are. I'm giving him a 5. His second race in Formula One. He's
Yeah.
driven 2 different teams, 2 different philosophy of cars, and he's still managed to score points.
No, yeah, I know. Obviously, there's fortune in there,
Yeah, of course, but
but
but you could say that about every single position on the grid.
I'm just trying to think.
So
I might need to amend the score to a 5.
yeah, I'm giving him a 5. I think, obviously, if Behrman has ran the whole season up until this point, it is a definite 4. It's nowhere near a 5 because he's scored points.
Yeah.
He's been in the right position. And he obviously would be experienced, but he's still a rookie, second race in the sport, and he's scored points on both occasions and for 2 different teams. By the way, new record
Yeah.
there as well, so that's pretty cool. The only driver to score points twice for 2 different teams in his first 2 races. It's quite cool. I'd be gassed if I was Behrman to have that stat.
Would you?
Well, I think that's pretty cool. I think no one's ever going to break that, surely. That's going to be a record that's going to stay for a long time, I would have thought.
I mean, I suppose the record's a record, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool.
Mean, I'm not gassed about it, but fair play.
Yeah, but I've given him a 5. He hasn't driven the car all season, and when he has driven a Formula One car, it's been a completely different car. So
yeah, no,
it's 5.
Yeah, okay.
Ninth,
I'll amend to a 5.
9th was Lewis Hamilton. You have to be careful what you give Hamilton here because the way that Mercedes was, and we saw it with Russell as well towards the end of, most of the first stint, it just wasn't great on the mediums. So that affected Mercedes a lot, and he got stuck.
Them tyre temperatures he wasn't a happy bunny in that car.
No, and he's done
some
well
of them team radios that he was putting through.
I'm trying.
Yeah, he was. Can you see what I'm having to do with this car?
He's done well to recover to 9th. But obviously, Hamilton and the team got the setup wrong in qualifying, which meant they had to change the setup. So they had to start from the pit lane.
Did they change the setup? Did they not? They took an engine. He took power unit.
Did he? I thought he changed the setup.
No,
I thought
he
broke
took a power unit. No, he took a power unit.
Oh, well, that shows how much I know. I'm pretty sure I heard them say that they tweaked the setup anyway.
Well, yeah, they may as well tweak the setup. If you're starting from the pit lane, you're starting from the pit lane. What more are they going to do?
But either way,
But he took a new power unit.
the qualifying wasn't great anyway.
No, I mean, 7th, George
No.
5th. It's probably where the Mercedes was, to be honest, this weekend. They looked like they were on the back foot the whole weekend, apart from in the 3rd sector. Because that middle sector, that Mercedes, especially Hamilton in that middle sector, looked woeful.
Yeah.
And that doesn't bode well for Singapore coming up.
No, it doesn't. I don't know what to give Hamilton. I have got
Hamilton's a difficult one, isn't it? Like, if he started 7th, where would he have been? I would assume behind Max, ahead of Fernando.
He might have beaten Max.
I don't know if he would have beaten Max. It might have been close. It might have been close.
I'm going to stick with a 2 because he got beat by Russell in qualifying, and he's been. Yeah.
Where's the new story about that one? He's been beaten by Russell in qualifying by almost every other weekend.
Yeah, but he wasn't scoring points if the crash didn't happen.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
I don't know. It's a difficult one. Isn't
Neither
it,
was
Hamilton?
Behrman.
Yeah, but Behrman ran. It's his second race in the sport. There's a total of 6 other drivers that could have scored points more than him.
Yeah, it's
Hamilton has to be one of those.
It's difficult. It's really difficult this weekend with that Mercedes, what the car was doing. Had he started 7th, would we be giving him a 3, even if he finished 7th still? Probably.
Yeah, I'd say so.
He's still got 9th. Again, a bit of fortune in there. If he'd rolled up on the Williams, would he have overtaken? We know how hard it was to overtake that Williams car.
Yeah, the
We
Williams
knew
is
it
so
from the
difficult.
weekend anyway.
Yeah.
So, could he have done anything after rolling up on the Williams? Probably not anyway.
I don't know. Is it harsh to give him a 2?
It's harsh to give him a 2, but it's also lenient to give him a 3.
It's a high 2, low 3, realistically, isn't it? It's just whichever one you decide to go with.
I don't care. Hamilton bias coming out, it's a 3.
I'm gonna give him I'm gonna stick with the 2 because I know it's not. I know it's not like,
I'm giving him a 3 because he's got 9.
All right, okay, that's fair. 8th was Franco Colapinto, who in his second
5.
race in Formula 1 has
5.
scored more points than Logan Sargent did in 1.5 seasons.
It's 5.
Yeah, it's a 5. It's got to be, right?
He was running with Albon.
Yeah, he's run a fantastic race, Franco Colapinto.
Albon and Colapinto did not look too dissimilar the whole weekend.
They've run a very, very good race, Williams. This is
They
what
have.
Williams should have done in Zandvoort. If you remember back to Zandvoort, if Albon didn't get that penalty, if Sargent didn't ruin his car for qualifying, this is where they should have been in Zandvoort.
Yeah.
And it seems Williams have made the right choice to put Colapinto in there because they've got a
He ran a
driver.
very good race.
Yeah, they've got a driver to do what they want in comparison to Albon. So
Yeah.
it's 5 for Colapinto. 7th was Alex Albon.
I think I could give him a 5 as well.
I mean, it's 5, isn't it? I mean, he's best of the rest, bar Fernando Alonso. So
Yeah. I mean, what more can you ask for from him? Nothing.
he's extracted everything that he needs to extract from that Williams.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair play.
And by the way, I also want to mention is even though he wasn't technically running with the top runners, he managed to keep them. He managed to keep Norris, Verstappen, and Russell behind for like 15 laps, which was ridiculous.
As long as you get an exit out of turn 16, that Williams is ridiculous in a straight line anyway.
Yeah, I just thought that was quite funny. He was running up there.
Yeah, but you could have predicted that from FP bloody 2.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
We've
I just
seen
think
that.
it's quite good.
Yeah, but it's great. He did a great job. But it's not new from Williams to do that. They've been doing that for years.
Yeah, they were quick in a straight line.
They've always been quick. They've done it in Monza year in, year out. They've done it in Azerbaijan a few years. They've done it at a few other tracks for the last 3-4 years. It's not new. It's a great job by Albon, but it's not a surprise.
Look at you trying to downplay Alex Albon.
No, I'm not downplaying Albon. I'm not downplaying Albon. No, he did a great job. All I'm saying is I'm no longer surprised by it.
No, that's fair.
It's like, oh, they should be overtaking him. Every time someone would say that to me, I would go, no chance. That Williams a rocket ship in a straight line.
Yeah, it was a rocket ship in the straight line. Speaking of drivers that kind of went under the radar but did a very good job, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, again. I mean, do I have to? I think I might just have to give him another 5.
Yeah, it's a 5 for Fernando. I mean, what else can Fernando do?
Retire.
Well, I mean, if he's finishing there, I mean, Fernando is in an interesting predicament, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's 9th in the championship. He's finishing near enough best of the rest, bar a few races, every race. He's not catching everyone.
Now he has, yeah.
He's not catching anyone because the only people above him in the championship are the top 8 teams, top 8 drivers, sorry. And no one's catching him because he's finishing in the best position he can, bar the top 8 drivers. What else is he to do? What can he do?
I don't know.
What's he fighting for? Yeah, basically. It's a 5 for Fernando, I think.
Yeah, no. It's pretty easy 5 to give as well.
He ran a very good race, and he beat out the Williams in the end. So, he's ran a very good race.
Yeah, can't be mad.
5th was Max Verstappen. I've gone with a 2 for Max Verstappen this weekend.
I went with a 2 as well.
Obviously,
he got absolutely obliterated by Perez. Perez did what Max does to Perez.
Yeah, yeah, he did. It seems harsh because
No.
Max, like Hamilton in the turbo hybrid era, this beginning of the era, and well, still now really, he's that type of driver where he makes the most of a bad situation.
Yeah.
Like, if he's having a bad race, he'll still score 10 points, as he has done.
Yeah.
And he'll maximize everything he can. So it seems harsh because he's still scored very good points. He's still not allowed Norris really to make any indents in his title lead. Or Leclerc, for that matter. Or Piastri, because he's still scored decent points. But
Yeah.
what I will say
They
is...
all three of them did make indents, though. Norris beat him.
Yeah, they did, but not to the point where they would have wanted to. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a mad amount.
No, but if you're Lando Norris starting P15 and you're finishing ahead of Max Verstappen in P4, your title rival, after he's starting P6 and you're P15, you are not mad.
No, I'm not saying that. That's not the point. The point is that Max maximizes everything that he can. So you might say it's harsh to give him a 2, but comparatively to what Max usually does and how Perez has outperformed him this weekend, that's the type of 2 that Max Verstappen has.
Max
he's still
was
finishing
almost
5th.
a pit stop behind Perez at one point.
Yeah. It's a 2 for Max.
You can't be almost a pit stop behind Perez in that Red Bull. That you basically own that Red Bull car, and you're almost a pit stop behind Sergio Perez, who partway through this season was struggling to get top 10.
Yeah.
It's a straight 2 for Max. There's no argument that it's harsh. There's no argument, oh, Max is in, Max is that. It's a straight 2. He's had a stinker. End of.
You know there will be people that will say, oh, but he's maximised a best of a bad situation.
Has he now? Well done.
Yeah, he has, to be fair, but...
Man was finishing P7 while his teammate was probably going to get P2.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. 4th was Lando Norris. And as people will have you believe, Lando Norris, I reckon this is probably one of his best weekends of the year. Because not only has he recovered very well, he's beat Max Verstappen, and he has made, although small, an indent in Max's lead in the championship. Can't complain.
It's a 4.
It's a 4. It's a 5 race. It's a 3 quali. The quali...
It's a 2 quali.
Quali wasn't his fault. Could have had a better banker lap.
What happened? Yes, it wasn't his fault. What happened? But he left it to the end. We know in Baku, you have to go out earlier, especially when you're in danger. He knew he was in danger. Why has he not gone out earlier?
Yeah, well, this is what we were saying, wasn't it? When before the qualifying started, we literally said as well, we had this conversation, that you have to play the game in Baku with either going out first, getting a banker lap in, or risking going out later and suffering the consequences of a potential red flag because someone bins it. And that's exactly what Norris got caught out by. That exact scenario.
So that's why I can't give him a 3, because that scenario was avoidable for him.
I wouldn't be that harsh on it, but
No,
yes,
that's why I'm not giving him a 1. I'm giving him a 2 for the qualifying.
Okay.
But the race was a 5, and I'll give him a 4 for it all overall, because it was a ridiculous recovery, and he beat Max Verstappen still. So
yeah, he had to beat Max, didn't he? He had to beat Max. 3rd was George Russell.
Yeah, fortuitous podium again.
Yeah, but he's always
literally, you know, the meme where everything's going on and like around you, and there's just one man just walking through.
Yeah,
that's George Russell's season.
Yeah, pretty much.
Man just strolls his way through.
I mean, he's in the right position at the right time.
Yep.
And there's always credit to that. Obviously, the podium wouldn't have come if it wasn't for the crash, but he's inherited something. You got to give him credit for being in the position to inherit it in the first place. So it wasn't Max, it wasn't Lando, it was George Russell. So for that, I'm giving him a 4 this weekend.
I'm giving him a 4. A few more laps, Lando would have had him as well, you know.
Yeah, he would have. I was bordering on a 5, but it feels wrong to give him a 5.
A 5 feels really wrong. I mean, he was a long way off that lead pack.
But the reason for that wasn't him, it was the Mercedes. As George mentioned in his post-race interview, Mercedes had that issue where the medium would just overheat like Hamilton had. But then in the second stint, Russell was the quickest driver on the track consistently. He was quicker than Piastri, he was quicker than Leclerc, he was quicker than Norris, he was quicker than Verstappen. On that hard tyre, that Mercedes was insane.
They were battling like every lap.
Well, but they weren't overtaking each other.
No, but they had to adjust lines and defend. I mean, Russell, credit where credit's due. I don't think it's quite a 5. It's a 4.
Yeah, No, actually, I'm going to give him a 5.
I am not.
The reason I'm giving him a 5 is because I don't think there's... What else can George Russell do in this race?
If you've given him a 5, you've got to give Hamilton a 3.
Yeah, but what else can George Russell do in this race?
Not be overtaken by Max at the start.
Yeah, but he's finished in front of Max.
I know he's finished in front of Max, but if he's not held up by Max at the start, maybe he's got clean air on their medium. Maybe they don't get worse. Maybe he's closer. Who knows?
He's not beating Leclerc or Piastri.
No, he's not beating Leclerc or Piastri. Maybe he could have challenged and made it harder for Sainz or something. Until Sainz then came through at the end. But barring that, he could have jumped Sainz in a pit stop. Something might have gone on there. He lost out to Max at the start.
I don't know. I don't know what else he could have done. It feels wrong to give him a 5, though, but he has maximised.
I'm giving him a 4 still.
No, you know what? I'm going to stick with a 4. I don't know. It feels wrong.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm sticking with a 4 because second was Charles Leclerc. And that's 4. That's 4.
It is a 4.
He's been overtaken by Piastri, and he hasn't been able to overtake him back. And he's lost a race win because he hasn't seen Piastri coming. Piastri sent
I mean,
it.
how could you see Piastri? Piastri came from bloody Georgia, the next country.
He did, but Charles, when you're coming from that far back, you have the facilities to defend that pretty easily, as Piastri had demonstrated many laps afterward.
Yeah.
And he hasn't defended it, and he's lost the race win because of it.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing that one. It is a 4. He should have done better.
Yep, but perfect weekend up until then for Charles, really. Apart from the mistake in practice, but obviously that didn't affect him in qualifying or the race, so...
Yeah.
And that only leaves us with the winner, Oscar Piastri.
5.
Yeah, easiest 5 I'm ever going to give the kid.
Man, see, he deserved that win.
He absolutely deserved it. And Piastri in Baku was something special. That move that he put on Charles Leclerc to win the race is not something we see often, but it's something we'd see the likes of Michael Schumacher do. It's the like that we'd see Lewis Hamilton do to win a race. This kid's special, and he's going to be a world champion at some point. 100%.
He's going to be a contender.
This kid's special. He really is.
He is special. He is special. Look, we criticise him, and people might say we're a bit harsh on Piastri, but we can give him credit where credit's due.
Absolutely.
And he's very good driver. I just want this comparison of Piastri and Lando to stop now and separate them and appreciate for what they're both doing.
I've always said this as well. Like, you're going to compare to your teammate because it's the only way you can compare. But that doesn't mean one's better than the other. It just means that if someone has a slightly off weekend, you can use the teammate to sort of see where they should have been. But Lando and Oscar are both fantastic in their own right.
Yeah, I mean, something that probably gave McLaren the win as well, which without this instance during the race, Piastri probably wouldn't have won, and that is Lando Norris holding up Perez through the castle section to allow Piastri to come out in front of Perez during the pit stop.
Oh yeah, that's something we didn't mention either.
If Piastri had come out behind Perez, I think that was Charles Leclerc's win.
Or maybe even
Without
Perez's win.
Well,
Who knows?
Charles's tyres wouldn't have burnt out as much as they would have.
No, that's right, yeah.
So, I think it was Leclerc's win still. It'd be too much shape. I don't think Perez was quite there on pace. I think he kept using his battery to close up and then kept dropping back and then close up, drop back. I don't think he was there with them two. Not quite, anyway. So, that Lando holding up of Perez allowed Piastri to come out ahead of Perez, which then allowed him to make the move on Charles. And without that Lando holding up, Piastri wouldn't have won. So it was a McLaren team win, that one.
Yeah, credit to Lando as well for that, for helping his teammate win the race. But anyway, that has been our driver ratings for the Grand Prix. Before we end the video, obviously, we're going to give our flop of the weekend, star of the weekend. Give me your flop of the weekend, Jack. Can I just mention, by the way, we both said Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah.
And to an extent, that's true. But it wasn't his fault, so we can't claim that as a victory
I
on
can't,
our part in the predictions.
I can't give it to Yuki. I think I want to give a joint one to Sainz and Perez.
I completely agree.
It's a joint one to Sainz and Perez. They've absolutely bottled it at the end.
They fumbled the bag so hard.
Yeah, it's a joint flop.
It's a joint flop, yeah. No, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And your star of the weekend, who has maximised, done the best job possible this weekend?
I think you have to give it to Piastri for what he did. It was special. I think you have to. I think there's many drivers that you could argue for it. Colapinto being one.
I'm gonna
Behrman being another.
I'm gonna give it. Speaking of Colapinto, I'm gonna give it to Williams as a whole.
Yeah.
I think they've come away. Probably the happiest of all the teams.
You need to stop licking Williams, man.
Brev, they finished 7th and 8th. They scored 10
Every
points.
weekend. Every weekend.
What do you mean every weekend? Williams did a madness.
Every weekend you have to slip Williams into something, or a Williams driver.
But they did well.
I know they did well. I know I'm not mad at it. All I'm saying is every weekend. Can we have one weekend, please?
Well, if they stink the gaff out, then yeah. Fuck it. I'm giving it Joe because he beat Bottas. No. Williams.
I'm giving it Piastri.
Okay. No, Piastri, yeah. I think Piastri or Williams is probably your top two, really.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that is it for our driver ratings post-race pod for the Baku Grand Prix. Join us in 1 week time for, of course, the Singapore Grand Prix. It's going to be an interesting weekend. Preview and predictions coming on Thursday, so we'll see you then.